218 years later, a few weeks before Issei is turned into a devil, gathered in the throne room of Yasuka's shrine were all of Yasuka's advisors who were all sat looking towards their queen. Also sat amongst them were Akane's eldest children, Yamato, Musashi and Shinano, who were now 230 years old but still looking like 30-year-olds. Sitting further away from the main table were Amaji, Akaji and Kaga, who were a few years younger than their elder sisters with looks similar to 16-17-year-olds. Turning towards where her eldest niece was sat, Yasuka said, "Yamato, I hate to ask this of you, can you and some of your sisters head to Kuo and investigate the unexplained disappearances that have been occurring there? Can some of you also infiltrate Kuo Academy as students there to keep an eye on the devils who are currently running the town?" "Okay, Auntie Yasuka," Yamato said. Turning to her sisters, Yamato then asked them, "Who would like to come with me?" Musashi and Shinano immediately agreed, wanting to support their sister. Amaji, Akaji and Kaga were less committed as they did not fancy being around hormonal teenagers. "Oh, by the way," Yasuka said, seeing that the other three sisters were not volunteering to help, she decided to give some information to offer some encouragement into them going. The town is currently being run by the Gremory and Citri heiresses. Once the sisters heard the name Gremory, they all released a sharp intake of breath. Their faces then darkened in rage, having never forgotten what had happened to their mother and their home. Even the advisors were nearly enraged as they also remembered what had happened that day to their beloved empress. Seeing that the room was quickly about to descend into anarchy, Yasuka immediately gathered everyone's attention by saying, "Enough everyone. Settle down. I know how you feel. We all miss the empress, my sister and the mother of some of you, but acting like this is not going to help us. If we're not careful, it could result in another outbreak of the great supernatural war. Only with Akane would we be able to stand a chance if a war was to break out. So don't act rashly until she returns. Her seal should nearly be broken in few weeks or so." Understanding the tense situation they were in, everyone quickly fell silent before returning their attention back to Yasuka. Seeing that everyone had calmed down, Yasuka then said, "Good. Now that everyone has calmed down, we can continue. Now Yamato, while you all are at Kuo, I would like you to see how the town is being governed and to gather evidence for a case against the devils in case they break or have broken the deal that was made when we agreed to rent them control of the town." "Yes, Auntie. We won't let you down," Yamato said as she and all of her sisters stood up and bowed before the current ruler. "I know you won't. You are your mother's children after all. Oh, don't worry about accommodations. We have bought a house for your use while you are there." "Thank you very much," Yamato and her sisters said. "You may go and prepare for your time at Kuo," Yasuka said, allowing her nieces to leave the room. "Thank you. Please excuse us," Yamato said as they bowed before leaving the room. After they had all left the room, the sisters all gathered in the waiting area to discuss what they would be doing. They all surrounded Yamato and waited for her to start talking. "Now then, before we pack, who would like to enroll at the academy with me?" Yamato asked the others. They all volunteered, all of them desperate for their revenge on the Gremory family, or more precisely on Ziaticus Gremory. "Not all of us will be able to go as some will need to investigate the town, while we investigate around the school. So, who would like to do what?" Yamato then said. So that Amaji wouldn't have to go to school, Akaji and Kaga quickly volunteered themselves to go to the school. Due to her tactical mind, Amaji would be better suited to investigating the town than being in the school. The two sisters thought, "Okay, that's Akaji and Kaga coming with me," Yamato said before turning to Musashi and Shinano and saying, "Musashi, Shinano, can the two of you help Amaji with her investigation? Besides Shinano's power overseeing the future in her dreams, so you can stay at the house if you want to." "Okay, big sis," Shinano said sleepily. "If that's what you wish, sister," Musashi said in acknowledgement. "Good, now that we've all decided, it's Akaji, Kaga and I at the school, and Amaji, Musashi and Shinano that will stay at the house." "Yes?" Yamato asked in confirmation. "Yes, Yamato-ne-san," they all said, confirming Yamato's words. Good, now that it has been settled, go to your rooms to pack for our time at Kuo, Yamato said, ending their little meeting. Okay, they all said as they left the room, heading to their own to pack their belongings. Once Yamato was alone, she released a heavy sigh from her lips and thought, please come back soon, Kaa-san. We all miss you, and tension between the factions are starting to heat up. Your presence is what kept all yokai safe, and with you gone the devils are getting more confident. They have already massacred the Nekomatus, and who knows what they will do next. So please come back soon. Yamato then went to her room to pack like her siblings were doing. Meanwhile, inside of the seal, still in her fox form, which was still trapped inside the seal, sat Akane, who was using her power to slowly erode away at the seal. She had been doing this for the past 200 years, in between training herself and resting to regain her strength. Damn you, Ziaticus. You bastard. I'll make you pay for this. Akane grumbled darkly as she worked on the seal, lightening her expression as she thought about her children. Akane then said, don't worry dears. Mummy will be with you soon and we'll get our revenge as a family. When her concentration began to waver as she thought about her children, it caused the progress of her job of breaking the seal to come to a halt. Seeing this, she continued to focus on breaking the seal. The following day, outside the Yasuka shrine, standing outside of the shrine stood the 6 siblings who were waiting to leave for Kuo. Also there was Yasuka, her daughter Kunao, and her personal guards. What are you doing here, auntie? Don't you have work to do? Yamato asked. Oh, my dear niece, what kind of aunt would I be if I didn't come to see you all off? Yasuka asked with a smile on her face. Thank you for coming then, auntie, Yamato said. It's my pleasure. Besides, a certain someone would have forced me to come, Yasuka said as she gestured down towards a now pouting Kunao. No, I wouldn't, Kunao mumbled quietly with a petulant pout on her face. Giggling quietly, the 6 sisters turned their attention towards the still pouting Kunao. Well, honey, is there anything you'd like to say? Yasuka asked her daughter, turning her head to look up at them. Do you have to go, big sisters? Can't you stay here? Sorry Kunao-chan, but we need to go. Big sisters and I have to go and make sure the puny devils are behaving in our territory, Akaji said with a smile, while her thoughts darkened at what they could do to the devils if they weren't following the agreement that they had agreed on. Almost like she could read her younger sister's thoughts, Amaji gave Akaji a bonk on the head with her fist before saying, calm down sister, you can plan about that later. We still have to get to Kuo and investigate first. Okay sister, Akaji said while clutching her head from the surprise hit. Are you all packed and ready to go? Yasuka asked. Yes, we've all packed the things we need and stored them into seals on our arms, Yamato said. Hearing this and seeing the others all give signs of confirmation, Yasuka then said, well, we won't keep you here much longer. Oh, and before I forget, while you are there, try to keep your use of magic to a minimum so that the devils won't get suspicious until you decide to reveal yourselves to them. So that means you can't teleport straight to Kuo from here. Seeing their worried looks, Yasuka then said, don't worry, I've booked you all tickets for the train to Kuo. Yasuka then handed them each a ticket as she spoke. Looking at the ticket, Yamato was surprised to read that the train would be leaving in 20 minutes. And it took 30 minutes to get to the station without the use of magic. Looking back towards Yasuka, Yamato said, auntie, how are we to get there on time? The train leaves soon. I'll teleport you all to a building that is controlled by us opposite the station, so you have enough time to catch the train, Yasuka said as she prepared a magic circle. Giving Kunao and Yasuka a hug, they all stepped into the magic circle, which started to glow brighter. Good luck and stay safe, Yasuka said. Nodding her head in response, Yamato and the others then disappeared in a flash of light. Seeing that their location had changed, the sisters all looked around to establish where they were before they spotted the train station out of the window. Is everyone ready? Yamato asked. Seeing a positive response, she then said, let's go, we don't have long until the train comes. They all then left the building and made their way into the station. Many of their fellow passengers stopped and stared at them as they passed, since they hadn't seen a group of such beautiful women before. Ignoring the stares they were getting, they looked at the nearest arrivals and departures board for the platform they needed. Finding the platform they needed, they all quickly made their way to said platform. Sticking together, they followed Yamato's lead as they soon arrived at a nearly empty platform. Seeing some free benches nearby, they all sat down to wait for their train. Sat in the middle, Yamato could only sigh as the two girls on either side of her rested their heads on her shoulders. "Don't tell me you're already tired, we haven't even left yet." Yamato sighed in exasperation. "It's not our fault that you're comfy to sleep on." "Yamato-ne-san," Amaji said. "Yeah, ne-san. You almost feel like Oka-san," Musashi said before her sentence drifted away into silence, as even after more than 200 years, the subject of their mother was still sour for them all. "Well, don't get too comfortable yet, the train is coming soon. You can rest once we get on," Yamato said after a few moments of silence. "Okay, fine," Amaji said as she and Musashi sat up in their seats. Nearly a minute later, there was an announcement on the tannoy system that said, "The train to Kuo is approaching. Can all passengers keep a safe distance from the tracks until the train has come to a complete stop? Thank you. Come on everyone," Yamato said as she stood up from the bench. The others quickly followed her example and joined their sister in standing at the middle of the platform. "Here it comes," Shinano said sleepily as she pointed in a direction. The others soon looked in the same direction that their sister was pointing at and spotted the sleek shape of a bullet train as it slowed down in its approach into the station, coming to a halt with a screech of brakes. The sisters all walked towards the nearest carriage and waited for the doors to open. With a mechanical hiss, the doors all opened as some of the passengers disembarked and made their way into the station. Once the passengers had left the train, the six sisters all climbed aboard as they went to find their seats. Having found their seats, they all sat down and made themselves comfortable. As they were all sat around a table in a group, 3 on either side, Yamato then said, "If you want to go to sleep you can. Just hand me your tickets beforehand." After handing Yamato their tickets, they all started to drift off to sleep. With Shinano resting her head on Yamato's lap and Musashi resting her head on Yamato's shoulder, Yamato looked across the table and saw Akagi and Kaga resting their heads on each of Amaji's shoulders, with all 3 of them being asleep. Seeing that she was the only one awake, Yamato thought to herself, "How are they asleep already? Shinano I can understand, but the others? Whatever. Since they are asleep, I might as well make some plans for our time in Kuo, as well as enroll the 3 of us into the academy." Seeing that no one else was around, Yamato quickly unsealed her laptop and started her preparations to protect her sisters from the devils. With the train now leaving the station and beginning to pick up speed, Yamato settled down for the long journey ahead. A few minutes later, the sound of the carriage door sliding open was heard. Glancing up from her work, Yamato spotted the ticket collector slowly make his way down the carriage towards where they were sitting. Stopping what she was doing, Yamato waited for the official to get to where they were sitting by taking out their tickets from her pockets and placing them on the table in front of her. A minute later, the ticket collector arrived at the table Yamato was sitting on. He announced his presence by saying, "Tickets please." Hearing this, Yamato sighed irritably at the man's laziness as the tickets were laid on the table in plain sight. Deciding to ignore it, she picked up the tickets before handing them to the man. After he had checked them all, he gave them back before saying, "Thank you, have a nice day, young lady." Having said this, he then left the carriage to head to the next one. Groaning quietly in annoyance, Yamato then settled back in her seat and continued with what she was doing. An hour later, having finished planning, Yamato sat back in her seat to relax for the rest of the journey, with Musashi and Shinano still on her shoulder and lap respectively. Suddenly there was an announcement that said, "The next stop is Kuo. All passengers please remain seated until the train has come to a stop. Thank you." Hearing this, Yamato thought, "Okay, I'll just relax at the house instead," as her eye twitched irritably from being denied the chance to relax. Seeing that her sisters were still asleep, she gently shook Musashi awake and said, "Sis, we're nearly there. It's time to get up." Once Musashi was awake, Yamato then asked, "Can you wake up Amaji, Akagi and Kaga while I wake up Shinano?" Blinking sleepily, Musashi nodded her head and made her way around the table to gently shake awake the other three of their sisters. While she did this, Yamato began the task of waking Shinano. Gently shaking her awake, Yamato said, "Wake up, sleepyhead. We're nearly there." Opening her eyes, Shinano stares up at Yamato's breasts before seeing her face looking down over them. "I had a vision," Shinano said as she then sat up. "What was in it?" Musashi asked, having finished waking the others up, who were also looking at Shinano expectantly. "I saw Oka-san returning," Shinano said as she looked at all of them seriously. Hearing this, the others all gained teary smiles on their faces. Oka-sama, Amaji, Akaji and Kaga as they held on to each other in comfort. "Kaa-san," Musashi said in joy. "Oka-san," Yamato said dreamily, reminiscing the love that their mother showed to them before she was sealed away all those years ago. "I hope you'll hold me in your arms like you did when I was younger," Yamato thought to herself in a moment of sadness. Quickly snapping out of it, Yamato said, "Is everyone ready? We'll be getting off in a minute." As soon as Yamato had said this, the train came to a stop at the station. "Let's go," Yamato said as she stood up to go to the open door. The others quickly followed behind her. Stepping onto the platform, they all looked around at their surroundings and saw a few passengers get on the train they had just left. Heading through the station, they made it to the outside, to the bustling streets. Standing on the pavement with her sisters around her, Yamato said, "Alright, the first thing we need to do is get to the house and set up for our time here, then we can discuss our next move." Walking to a nearby taxi, Yamato asked the driver, "Can you take us to this location?" She said as she showed the driver the address of the house at which they'd be staying. "Of course. Climb in, ladies," the driver said as he got out of the car. "Do you have any luggage that you need help with?" "No, we don't. It was taken to where we would be staying ahead of us arriving," Yamato lied, covering the fact that it was all sealed into tattoos on their arms. "Okay, everyone in then, and then we can go," the driver said as he got back into the driving seat. Once everyone was in with their seatbelts on, they set off to join the flow of traffic that was leaving the station. Trying to strike up conversation, the driver asked, "So where are you ladies from?" As her sisters were distracted by looking at the city as they drove, Yamato answered by saying, "We're from Kyoto. We wanted a change of scenery, so we came here." "Have you heard about the academy? You all seem to be of that age," the driver asked. "Yes, we have considered enrolling there," Yamato said as she looked away from the driver, trying to end the conversation before it got too personal. Seeing that Yamato had lost interest in continuing the conversation, the driver also fell silent. Arriving at their destination, the driver stopped and said, "Here we are, ladies. That will be 7,000 yen, please." Once they were all out of the taxi, Yamato handed the driver the required money. Thanking her for the money, he got back into his car and set off back to the station to pick up some more people. Now that they had time to look around, they noticed that the house was in a suburban area, and more importantly for them, Kuo Academy was nearby and within walking distance. "Let's go in and check out the house," Yamato said as they all made their way to the front door. As Yamato was the oldest and most responsible, she was entrusted with all their important documents and items, for instance the house keys, money, their student IDs, and all of their magical items. Opening the door, Yamato stepped aside to let her sisters go past her into the hall. Turning around, Yamato looked around the surrounding area for anyone watching them. Seeing and sensing no one around, she then closed the door and locked it behind her. Following the sound of voices, Yamato made her way to the kitchen where the others were sat around the table chatting to one another. Seeing her enter, Musashi said, "We've searched all of the rooms. There are enough for one for each of us, but if any of us want to share, the rooms are big enough to allow this." "I see. Does anyone want to share rooms?" Yamato asked. "No, I don't think so, although if needed we wouldn't mind sharing if one of the rooms was converted into an infirmary," Amaji said as the others nodded in agreement to her suggestion. "That's not a bad idea, converting a room into an infirmary. Does anyone know if this place has a basement or not, as it would be the perfect place to plot the information for our investigation?" Yamato asked. "We don't know," Although I think I saw a door that looked like it led to a basement, Kaga said, holding her chin in thought. Alright, if some of us go check out the possible basement, the others can help me place these privacy and silence and security seals. This should prevent us from getting any surprise visitors, and if anyone does get in, they will alert all of us to the intruder's presence and magic signature, Yamato said as she pulled a bunch of the seals from the storage seal on her arm. We'll go check out the basement if there is one, Amaji said, gesturing to the younger kitsunes, that is Akaji and Kaga. Okay, let's get to it, Yamato said as the group split up. Turning to Musashi and Shinano, she said, now these seals need to be placed around the perimeter. In a square shape will do. We can also put some more inside the house as an extra precaution. Nodding their heads in confirmation, Musashi and Shinano said, okay Nei-chan. Just as they were about to leave the room, Yamato then thought of something and said, when putting them outside, make sure they aren't visible to other people, and also make sure you aren't spotted placing them, otherwise our cover could be blown already. Okay, how about one of us places the seals while the other keeps watch, Musashi suggested. Do that, although that is only needed at the front of the house as the hedges hide a lot of the garden from prying eyes, Yamato said, gesturing to the garden outside the kitchen window. We'll set up and activate the seals on the outside before we do the inside, as we'd have the privacy to do so once the barriers are activated. They'll be invisible to others, but we'll be able to see if they are active or not, Yamato said, then reassured any worries the two might have had. After a few minutes, the three of them had placed all of the seals outside without being spotted. Gathering back together, Yamato started gathering her chakra as the barrier quickly formed around to house. Seeing that the seals had worked properly and the barrier had activated, Yamato stopped channeling her chakra and turned to her two sisters who were watching her work and said, let's go check on the others and see if they have found anything. Going back inside, they headed down the hallway before seeing an open door underneath the stairs. Poking their heads around the door frame, all they saw was stairs heading downwards. Making their way down the stairs, they soon joined the other three who were stood at the bottom of the stairs staring at a symbol on the wall in front of them. Once their eyes had become accustomed to the darkness, they saw what the symbol was. The symbol was of a black nine-tailed fox with red markings. Gasping in surprise, Yamato exclaimed, "That's Oka-san's symbol." Hearing this, the others all gasped softly to themselves, having found something linked to their mother. Getting closer to the symbol to inspect it, Yamato noticed some writing underneath it. "Hey everyone, there is some writing underneath the symbol," she said to the others. "What does it say?" Akaji asked as they all moved closer. Leaning closer, Yamato read the words aloud. "Only members of my blood can open the seal. Smear blood on the seal to unlock. It is written by Oka-san. It's her handwriting. Shall we see what's inside?" Akaji asked impatiently, eager to see what their mother had left them. Biting their thumbs with their canine teeth to draw a little blood, they all then smeared some of their blood onto their mother's symbol. They all stepped back slightly as the symbol glowed red and began to change before their eyes. They all watched as they saw their own names being added onto 6 of the tails on the symbol. The eyes suddenly glowed red, and as a red figure began to take shape. Shutting their eyes when the glow got too bright, they all looked away. Once the glow had stopped, they looked back to face the person and all teared up with a gasp as standing in front of them was their mother. "KKAA-chan, is that you?" Kaga asked shakily. "I am just a clone made of the original's chakra. I'm afraid, my dear," the clone said. "How are you here?" Musashi asked. "When this place was built, the original placed some of her chakra in the seal to create me in case she wasn't able to do it herself," the clone replied. "Do what herself?" Amaji asked. "Unlocking your ship form and increasing your power." "Of course," the clone said, amused. "What, really?" Akaji asked. "Of course. Shall we go to the dockyard and do it now?" the clone asked, tilting its head slightly. "How do we get there?" Yamato asked. "Whenever you want to enter the dockyard, just channel your chakra into the seal and it will only respond to you 6. Give it a try." Doing as the clone suggested, they all channeled their chakra towards the seal. With a red light, the wall and seal suddenly began splitting apart, revealing the interior of an elevator. "Why is there an elevator here?" And how does it take us to the dockyard? Yamato asked. To prevent being discovered by the other factions instead of a teleportation circle, the dockyard was built deep underground with chakra-infused materials designed to be untraceable to those that aren't full yokai. Only those that are completely loyal to your mother would be able to find it. And this is the elevator to get there. Now then, let's go, the clone explained as she stepped into the elevator. Following after her, the others all joined their mother's clone inside. Once the last one had stepped inside, the wall moved back into place and the elevator began to descend. After several minutes of them descending, the elevator came to a halt. As the doors opened, the clone said, "Welcome to your mother's secret naval base, which is now yours as well. You are able to do what you want with it." Inside the massive cavernous space was a dockyard that could house hundreds of ships. However, in the docks lay only 6 ships, 3 aircraft carriers, 2 super battleships and a battle cruiser. Getting a closer look, they each noticed their name on the side of their ships. "How do we pair ourselves with our ships?" Yamato asked, turning to look at the clone. "In the command bridge on each of your ships you will find a blue cube. Place it to your chest and it will be absorbed into you. Once you have absorbed it, you will be able to access your ship form and rigging. The cube will automatically give you the information you need to access and use each form as well," the clone answered. "Once you're done, come back here." "Okay," they all said as they left to their ships. Navigating through the maze of corridors and steps, they all made it to their command bridges. Upon entering their bridge, they quickly spotted the cube that was sitting on a table giving off a blue glow. They all quickly approached the cubes before picking them up and placing them to their chests. As the cube was absorbed into them, their bodies released a blue glow before fading away. Having absorbed the entirety of the cube, they all received a sudden rush of information to their minds. Leaving their bridges and getting to the deck, the 6 sisters all activated their rigging at the same time. Their ships glowed blue before they broke into thousands of blue cubes which formed each sister's rigging. Dropping down to the water's surface, they skated forwards before climbing back onto the dock. Once they were back together, they all released airship forms, causing their rigging to vanish, replacing them with their ships being back in the docks they were in originally. Heading back to their mother's clone, they were all surprised and horrified to see their mother's clone beginning to disappear. "What's happening?" Okasama Akaji asked. "I'm running out of chakra. Once it runs out, I will disappear, but my memories will be sent back to the original," the clone said as more of her faded away. Hugging the clone like they did when they were children, the 6 of them all looked at their mother's clone with tears in their eyes as they pulled out of the embrace. "Goodbye, Mummy. We'll see you soon," they all said tearily. "Goodbye, my dears. I have one last thing to give you from the original," the clone said as she handed Yamato a sealed letter before fading away completely. "What does it say?" Yamato Neamaji asked as they cleared their eyes of tears. Wiping away her own tears, Yamato opened the letter and read it out to her sisters. It says, "My darling daughters, Yamato, Musashi, Shinano, Amaji, Akaji and Kago, if you are reading this, then it means that I have been unable to help you unlock your ship forms and more of your strength. Once you have unlocked it, don't use your rigging unless you truly need to, as if anyone who sees it will link you to me. You can use it if you are killing stray members of the other factions or if you're certain you won't have any witnesses. You may do what you want with the dockyard. It has all the facilities you'll need to supply a fleet of ships with enough ammunition to fight a war. Only you and those you allow will be able to enter this place. The barriers will keep out any unwanted people. Only high-level gods like the Hindu trio and above that is Office and Great Red will be able to force their way in. Although the 5 of them don't normally involve themselves with other pantheons, but be careful just in case. Once you have unlocked your ship forms and riggings, you should be equal to a Satan-class devil. In the research and development there are the blueprints for a retrofit under your names. The resources for them all are in storage area 12 if you want to upgrade your ships at any time. Just be prepared as your ship form and rigging will be unavailable for you to use until it has finished the upgrade. One last thing, all of you, remember to look after yourselves and each other and know that you are all my pride and joy. You all mean the world to me and that I will love you all no matter what. From your loving mother, Yamato finished as she handed the letter to Musashi as she wept slightly from reading their mother's words. Once they had all read the letter for themselves, Kaga then asked, "What do we do now?" After several moments of indecision, Yamato said, "We continue with the plan but stay extra cautious so we don't reveal ourselves too soon, or at least until mother returns." "Shall we take a look around or go back?" Musashi asked. "Let's go back up. It's my turn to cook tonight and I have to start getting dinner ready. We're having my special ramen," Amaji said. Akaji and Kaga began salivating at the thought of Amaji's homemade ramen. "Okay, let's go," the two said as they dragged Amaji toward the elevator. The three remaining sisters all sighed tiredly to themselves as they trailed behind. Getting to the elevator, the three found the other two sisters waiting impatiently inside, with Amaji stood in between them sighing tiredly at their younger sister's impatience. "Hurry up, Nason, we got to go. Amaji still needs to make dinner," Akaji called out excitedly. "We're coming. We're coming," Musashi replied as they joined the others in the elevator. Pressing the button on the control panel, the door slid closed, and the elevator started to go upwards. Arriving back at the basement, Yamato sealed off the entrance to the elevator while the others headed off to the kitchen to get ready for dinner. Once she had finished, she headed up the stairs to join her sisters in the kitchen. Entering the kitchen, Yamato saw the rest of her sisters chatting amicably sat at the table while Amaji was preparing their dinner. Taking a seat at the table, Yamato sat down in between Musashi and Shinano, who was looking half asleep. Turning to Shinano, Yamato said, "Go to sleep, sis. I'll wake you when dinner is ready. See if you can get any more visions." Putting her head on Yamato's shoulder, Shinano almost immediately fell asleep. A few minutes later, Amaji called out from where she was cooking and said, "Dinner's in 5 minutes. Akaji, Kaga, can you help set the table please?" Yamato then said as she turned to wake up the sleeping Shinano. "Okay," they said as they got up to get the cutlery to set the table. "Shinano, it's time to wake up. Dinner's nearly ready," Yamato said as she gently shook Shinano awake. I'm up, Shinano said tiredly. "Did you get any visions?" Yamato asked once Shinano was fully awake. "No, not this time," Shinano said as she sat up straighter in her seat. "That's okay. Go wash your hands for dinner," Yamato said as they all went to the sink to wash their hands. Now that they were all sat back at the table, they helped Amaji dish out the ramen she had cooked. As a tradition, Akaji and Kaga had also laid a space for their mother even though she wasn't there. Once they were all ready to eat, they all looked to their mother's empty place at the table as they offered a prayer for the food and for her swift return. After they had eaten and cleaned up their dishes, they all relaxed in the living room. While they were relaxing, Yamato prepared their lunches for the following day. She herself then went back into the living room to relax as well. Before long, the younger ones began to doze off. Seeing this, Yamato said, "Alright everyone, it's time for bed. We've got a busy day tomorrow." "Okay, Nae-sama," they all said as they made their way upstairs to their rooms. Before they went to sleep, all of them said, "Good night, Mumioka-san." Meanwhile, in the seal, once the clone had dispelled, as she was working on the seal, Akane suddenly received a rush of memories as the memories of her clone was sent to her. They found the dockyard and their ships. "That's good. Now you should be able to handle anyone you'll face, at least until I return. You've all grown up well. I'm so incredibly proud of you all. Yamato-chan, you've done a brilliant job of raising them," Akane said to herself as she kept working. "Soon I'll be out of here and we can be a family again. A few weeks more is all I need," Akane thought to herself.